Jon Rahm's exit out of the PGA Tour will allow lower-ranked PGA Tour players to cash in on more lucrative opportunities and, even better, move up in the PGA Tour rankings. Undisputed continues to get their butt handed to them on a silver platter, courtesy of Stephen A. Smith and ESPN's First Take as the year comes to a conclusion. Is the NFL considering a fourth game time slot in wake of overseas games becoming more and more popular? And Paul Feinbaum is bothered by what he is calling fake outrage around the college football playoff and the selection, leaving out Georgia and Florida State. All that and more on a Wednesday edition of Press Row, live right now.
Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Press Row, covering all the big angles of the wide world of sports via the sports media and sports business perspective on this Hump Day, Wednesday, December 13th, 2023, officially 12 days away now from the Christmas holiday. But of course, folks, yours truly, Callan McClurg, joining you today here from the home studio in San Diego, the first of another C2C triple header, or a double header, I should say, of network programming with Sports Minute coming up later this evening on this Wednesday night. Of course, folks, hoping that you and yours are having and had a great Wednesday here this afternoon on the West Coast. Again, sun already setting here at around 3:30 local time, which is just throwing me for a big loop. And I'm sure a lot of you out there would agree with how the time change, of course, is really just throwing us all off here as we, again, enter the holiday season here in just a few days. Again, 12 days now away from the Christmas holiday. Folks, want to personally update you real quick that next week we're only going to be having one show next Monday at, again, 3:30 Pacific time. And we'll be off for the remainder of the week, though, for the Christmas holiday, of course, and also with work popping up next week before the holiday does come around. So look for us again one more time at next Monday. And, of course, we'll be back with you as well here tomorrow on Thursday at around 1:30 or 2:30 so we can give Eleanor and Creep and Real plenty of time to get on air on Thursday afternoon. But of course, folks, we view things from the biggest sports headlines via the sports media and sports business side of the perspectives given on our podcast here today. Again, catch us Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 3:30 Pacific time, right here on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. But we welcome your input, though, questions, comments, or your concerns as time goes on here today. And again, we'll do our absolute best to read your commentary live on the air here this afternoon. With that, folks, we'll start things off over in golf news. Jon Rahm's latest move to the LIV Golf Tour now may have some ramifications and could open the door for lower-ranked PGA Tours to cash in on both on the rankings and lucrative opportunities. Jon Rahm is moving over right now to LIV Golf, which could be worth at least $500 million, and is certainly lucrative for the two-time major champion from Spain, but it's also turning out to be a more meaningful financial opportunity for several lower-ranked PGA Tour golfers, potentially worth tens of millions of dollars. Rahm is currently the third-ranked golfer now, in the world, but he is now no longer eligible for PGA Tour events come next season in 2024. Several players are now receiving newfound eligibility for tournaments throughout the course of next season, and none more profitable than the 8 signature events that will pay out at least $160 million during the 2024 PGA Tour. Mackenzie Hughes, whose career earnings is only $14.4 million since he's been on the tour since 2017, came in at 51st last season in the FedEx Cup standings. But now with Jon Rahm exiting, Hughes moved up one spot, though, putting him in the field for all 8 of the big-time signature PGA Tour events. He was also previously eligible for just 2 of those 8. Winners' checks now at those events will climb to $4 million from $3.6 million, and 5 offer guaranteed money because there is now no cut. Rahm's defection also put Alex Smalley into the field for the Genesis Invite and the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, giving him a chance to cash in at those signature events, and also gave the 126th ranked player in the FedEx Cup standings, Carl Jung, full year status on the PGA Tour. Golf right now, folks, is entering almost like their WWE versus WCW era right now. The influx or the migration of several big golf names, now like Jon Rahm, third ranked in the entire PGA Tour standings, going to the Saudi Arabian-backed LIV Golf Tour. There has been so much controversy, folks, surrounding these golfers moving to the LIV stage. The only saving grace, the only good thing that may come out of this is now there might be some more parity without the big name players. Now, I know what the big name players, though, like your Tiger Woodses of the world and Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele's, like the big name studs out there on the PGA Tour will still bring people to the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines in San Diego, or the Pebble Beach Pro-Am up in the Bay Area, or to the opening tournaments in Hawaii, or the Genesis Invite up at the Riviera in Los Angeles County. But I do think that those who are on the bottom or at the bottom of the barrel or are also at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to the PGA Tour, seeing big name players like Rahm, Mickelson, notably those 2 that I can think of, at least who have defected to this to the LIV Golf Tour on the CW on television, this is now giving a lot of players who are not the A-list golf names or household names to now become household names like Morikawa, Jason Day for a while there, Justin Rose as well, that though it does suck, I think, seeing the PGA Tour, who we have known for a long time as the golf tour out there, but now that competition from somewhere else, though I know the baggage that comes, though, with the LIV Tour when it comes down and boils down to Saudi Arabia money, human right violations from the Saudi Arabian government, and all the baggage that we even heard, though, during the Qatar Men's World Cup, though, about a year or so ago, is even though the PGA Tour is losing probably big, marketable superstar golfers like Jon Rahm, the parity, I think, is the winner of these golfers like Rahm defecting for LIV. Now, again, this is all about what's best for their careers, though. But now, though, when you think of like top 50 golfers, top 150 golfers now, who, again, have been lost so badly in the shuffle because they maybe, again, don't draw the big crowds, though, like Jon Rahm would, or a Tiger Woods, for example, on the PGA Tour, that even though, for the PGA's sake, though, that this might hurt business, Jon Rahm's out, Phil Mickelson's out, other big-name golfers have defected to this, somewhat, in a way, controversial, blacklisted, blackmailed golf tour, that now, though, we might be able to see new budding stars become stars on the PGA Tour. Again, like we said here, or that was mentioned in this FOS story, courtesy of David Rumsey earlier on Wednesday, is like golfers who are like 50th ranked in the standings or in the top 150. I think it was listed here that Mackenzie Hughes, okay, he only earned, his career earnings are barely south of $15 million. since he joined the tour in 2017 and finished on the outside looking into the top 50 percentile or top 50 of the best golfers in the Cup standings for the tour last year. But now Jon Rahm leaves. So the number 3 golfer ranked in the PGA Tour leaves for LIV. He moves up a spot, yes, to 50. I know it's bad. But now they'll look. Jon Rahm leaving adds this potential young, budding superstar lost in the shuffle among the PGA Tour. Now he can play in all 8 of the major trophy, major tour events, the Masters, U.S. Open. You know, those big name events, though, that draw crowds, they draw television viewership. This kid gets his name out there now a bit more often. Hey, you know, who knows what may happen. So I do agree, though. I do think that a lot of us that maybe do watch golf casually or are diehard golf fans, I do believe that there is valid concern, you know, that the PGA Tour loses more big names or loses a big name like Jon Rahm to rival, I'll put that in quotes, a rival LIV tour in this case, the baggage that comes with the LIV tour from the Saudi Arabian government funding this tour, again, Qatar, World Cup, all that kind of bridges the gap, though. But I also did recall, I think, hearing that there may have been a potential chance of a merger. I think Jay Moore, who was the commissioner for the PGA Tour, even said there might be a chance of there being a merger between LIV and the PGA. There's been a lot of resentment from either Congress. I think that there's a court case going on right now, like liquidations going on, lawsuits are going on, that there was, though, at the start of this whole entire fray. But I do kind of feel like, though, that this might be healthy competition for a sport like golf. Slow man's game only is played between, certain months of the year because of the weather. They have to start off in warm weather cities like Honolulu and San Diego in the Bay Area for a bit, and even Los Angeles and Phoenix and places like that. But maybe that this could be healthy competition to help grow golf. I know that may be a bit ludicrous or stupid, given the nature, again, not denying it here, about LIV having their issues. Again, they have a lot of baggage in the baggage claim area of the airport right now. Again, as we have talked about, human rights violations with Saudi Arabia, the fact that their government is funding this tour. Television has not quite been on par, pun intended, with LIV. They've had some tournaments that have been pulled off the air for whatever the factors may have been, though. But I do think that even though this hurts the PGA Tour, again, losing Jon Rahm, and as Christy Wilson alludes to, golfers like Dustin Johnson going to the LIV Tour might be a good thing because it might lead other lesser-known golfers a chance to shine. That's more, I think, my point of emphasis here is, yes, it sucks like DJ's gone now to LIV. Jon Rahm, third-ranked player on the PGA Tour, gone now to the LIV Tour for, again, $500 million. But I still think, though, this gives a chance, like a Mackenzie Hughes, who we talked about, career earnings of less than $15 million. He gets bumped up one spot in the standings now to number 50. This could help get his career in the limelight. Now he's eligible for all 8 of the big trophy events, the big majors that are going to be played next season. So this, I believe, is healthy competition. Again, not denying what's gone on, though, with LIV, folks. Bad TV deal with the CW has been in place. Again, Saudi Arabian government backing this golf league. Again, I know about those factors, but this competition, I think, could be healthy for a sport like golf. Though it sucks for the PGA Tour, again, long time the Iron Fist ruler of the golf scene, losing Jon Rahm, losing Dustin Johnson, losing guys like that who are big household names. But now this could be like that old aging pro sports team who has had the same cast and crew, like the Spurs back in the day with Ginobili and Duncan and Parker. Like the savvy veterans who have paid their dues with that organization, they move on. Now let the kids play. Let the kids take over and forge their own legacy. That could be where I think we're at now here with golfers like Johnson and even Jon Rahm leaving, migrating, defecting, whatever you want to call it, to LIV, that now like a Mackenzie Hughes could become the next big name star. I think of Xander Schauffele played here at San Diego State University. Not very well known, though, but now is in that, category of like big name golfer now after some of the old, I wouldn't even say like old aging guard of golf, but big names who have now left or retired. Now you've got a kid like Xander Schauffele in your spotlight to grow your brand. So I think, though, that again, folks, that despite the fact that Jon Rahm is going to defect or move, I should say, to the LIV Tour, though, that this could be a great thing, I think, for the sport of golf, though, that this kind of healthy competition now, I think that we're past that point right now of the bitterness, I think, of PGA versus LIV now, where now they want to at least try to do business together, and they're being cordial about it. And that, I think, is the one thing, though, that may have gotten lost in the whole fray, though, too, along the fact of like DJ leaving and now Jon Rahm leaving, is basically the fact that it's simple here, that now we have healthy competition. We have healthy competition, and that it almost in a way feels like that they both want to see each other succeed, though. But I also could probably compare it a bit, though, to like now the PGA might be on the downside because of losing these big name studs again to this new tour. But it is what it is, though. But again, folks, Jon Rahm, third-ranked golfer on the PGA Tour, now leaving to take his talents for $500 million over to the LIV golf circuit, though. But again, this could, though, help spark and perhaps get some lesser-known golfers, as Christy Wilson alluded to, on the map now and becoming household names. But again, though, that, of course, will take time. On the media side, folks, First Take continues to dominate and own the ratings battle with chief rival FS1's Undisputed. Once again, even 3 months after Skip Bayless's program on FS1 reshuffled their entire format and whatnot. But Skip Bayless has recently starred in a commercial for Undisputed, shot in a actual cemetery, which may be a metaphor for the dying competition between the show and chief rival Stephen A. Smith's First Take on ESPN. Over the summer, the dueling morning debate talk shows revamped their casts and formats before the NFL season, each intending to become the leading embrace debate show on morning sports television. FS1's Undisputed hired a new trio of retired NFL players, Michael Irving, alongside Keyshawn Johnson and Richard Sherman. And in return, Smith personally recruited Bayless's ex-sparring partner and NFL Hall of Famer Shannon Sharp to join him and Molly Curum as part of the ever-revolving door of hosts on ESPN's First Take. With more than 3 months of head-to-head competition between the reshuffled weekday shows, the verdict is in. It is Smith by a TKO, probably to no one's surprise. Between September and November, during the course of the season, season up until last month, ESPN was still significantly behind FS1 for their morning talk show every morning. I'm not surprised whatsoever. Because, folks, this goes back to a point I had said earlier on Press Row here on C2C. The reports I've been reading, though, about how difficult it is and can be to work with Skip Bayless, I'm not surprised that a lot of people have defected or have said, I can't deal with this, I'm moving on to greener pastures and looking for somewhere else to go to further my career. And it might just be time, I think, that any morning talk show for sports on television, you just at this rate have to basically put up the white flag and surrender and cough it up. You know, there is no way that you can compete right now with Stephen A. Smith and First Take, with how they have single-handedly just crushed the competition. And this is also, I think, a little bit, though, can fall on FS1 for allowing Skip Bayless, though, to basically let that program go on hiatus to restructure itself, though, and in a way, let Stephen A. Smith and let ESPN bully you into submission and stuff you into the locker. During 2 weeks, between November 27th and last week, December 8th, First Take had drawn 581,000 viewers, 5 times greater than the 105,000 that tuned into FS1's Undisputed. In fact, November ranked as the most watched month in the 16-year history of First Take with an average of 614,000 average viewers. First Take, by the way, between September and November averaged about 554,000 viewers compared to 120,000 for FS1's Undisputed. First Take has still maintained its number one ranking since Undisputed debuted in 2016, even if the 56-year-old Smith leaves his show for late-night television, entertainment, or politics. Shannon Sharpe vowed First Take will still be number one. A part of a quote here from Shannon Sharpe reads, "Y'all are not going to be better than me and Stephen A. That's not going to happen. I promise you that is not going to happen ever, ever," he warned his competitors at FS1. I agree. I mean, I think that the numbers speak for themselves, though. And like I said, though, folks, is I don't get up in the morning and watch First Take or watch FS1 because I don't want to begin my day having to plug my ears already because 3 or 4 grumpy old men are sitting around a table drinking coffee and yelling at the top of their lungs about why this player is great, why this team sucks, though, and yada, yada, yada. I would rather listen to Colin Cowherd do his program and listen to local talk radio on either 760 AM or 97.3 The Fan here in San Diego, and then watch Colin Cowherd on FS1. But at the same time, though, I mean, at this rate, I don't know what you could do if you're FS1. I mean, you've tried everything. You lured away you lured Skip Bayless away from ESPN. They had a good run, though, with Shannon Sharpe, though. But I just think, though, that not necessarily the workplace culture with Skip Bayless, though, but I think the reports when they come out saying that a lot of people behind the scenes dread working with Skip Bayless, and then the influx of people who have worked with Skip, who have left the network or have gone to do other programs, that should be alarming, especially noting the fact that Joy Taylor and Jenny Taft, who were a part of the program at one point in time, I believe. I know that Jenny Taft was for a long time. When they also defect because of comments made by Skip Bayless, and also Christy Wilson goes to a better point that she personally despises Bayless because more and more because of the stuff he has said about Dak Prescott that angered me, amongst other crap he has said in the past, where, again, he said that Dak Prescott's mental health did not really matter to him because he's the quarterback of the biggest brand name in the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys. That is the stuff that I think more so infuriates me, is pop shots being taken like that towards a player, not based on their play on the field, but judging their character and judging their person away from the field, though. When you cross that line, you lose a lot of respect and a lot of points in my mind on the scoreboard. Because that does not affect outcomes of games when someone admits that they're not mentally in a good place. So I think that that is one part of it. But I think it mainly goes back, though, to the fact that I think ESPN capitalized on Skip Bayless and that program going dormant over the course of the summer. And I think that most of that blame, though it goes on Bayless, I do, though, cast some blame, though, on FS1. How can you allow your competitor to the rival sports network of ESPN? How are you able to basically say, we're not going to have this program on? Like, in a way, like, it goes to the article's point here from FOS about, like, TKO for Smith, though, because they may have revamped their lineup or revamped their roster, with Stephen A. Smith and Mad Dog Russo and all the personalities, and again, getting Shannon Sharpe, though, who left FS1. But to simply let Skip Bayless say we're going on break over the summer just because the NFL's not in season, that is a major disservice to sports fans around the world who, like myself, probably don't give a flying crap about the NFL and about football in general. You literally are not going to talk about Major League Baseball, the NBA playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, Major League Soccer. You're not going to talk about those storylines over the summer because it doesn't fit your NFL, universe. That you're going to basically say, no, we're not, I need to go and, we need to go on hiatus because I don't want to talk baseball. I don't want to talk basketball. I don't want to talk hockey and soccer and rugby and all these other sports that, no one really cares about. That's more of a disservice to sports fans out there who, again, probably have football fatigue if they're a football fan at one point in time. So I think, though, that blame in this case for why First Take is the overwhelming king of embrace debate morning sports talk shows on television is the fact that Fox and FS1 let Skip Bayless take the program, or in this case, take money and run. The fact that Skip Bayless was able to basically tell Fox, pull our show off the air during the football offseason, because now we have to, for one, replace Shannon Sharp, but also I don't want to sit here over the NFL offseason and not talk about the NFL, because I don't want to talk about Major League Baseball or the NBA playoffs or the Stanley Cup playoffs or Major League Soccer or talk any other sport but it's not the NFL, because I don't want to do it. That's more of where I think my frustration would be if you are a Skip Bayless fan or a FS1 fan. And I would even think if you're an FS1 executive. Like, it's your network is Fox Sports 1, not Fox American Football 1. There is a difference between wanting to be the NFL network and talk NFL football 24/7, 364, and 5/8 of a day. So I mainly, in this case, will blame Skip Bayless for, other than having to replace Shannon Sharp, though, I blame a majority of the blame on Skip and FS1 for taking the easy way out and not wanting to be a network for sports fans around the world, though, because it didn't fit Skip's morals or his, thoughts and opinions to be on air during the NFL offseason. I think that's more of where I think the gripe would lie for me, though, is that if this is a sports network, I think that includes Major League Baseball. I think that includes college basketball. I think that includes the NBA and the NHL and Major League Soccer and the WNBA and Formula One and NASCAR and any other thing that Fox has on their portfolio for sports. This is not Fox American Football 1, Skip. It can't always be about the NFL. And that's where I think that Stephen A. Smith gets more respect in my mind, because they have at least covered some big stories away from the NFL, though. And I know that they do a great job of that, though, on First Take, though. But that is where I think the reason is why First Take has simply crushed and has knocked out Undisputed for being anywhere close to a worthy competitor when it comes to embrace debate morning talk shows on television, is that, yeah, they talk the NFL, but I saw a lot of content about Draymond Green slugging Josef Nurkic in last night's game between the Warriors and Suns on YouTube. I saw him talk about Shohei Ohtani going to the Dodgers. I saw him talk other things other than just the almighty NFL. So I think that there's two lead factors here as to why I think that Undisputed will never be able to dethrone First Take. I blame this a lot on Skip Bayless for kind of, in a way, taking the chicken route, the easy way out, of during the NFL offseason, restructuring the show. Again, I get you had to because of Shannon Sharp going to ESPN, but also taking that time off, family time or not, just because this was the NFL offseason. And I also, in a way, blame FS1 executives for allowing this crap to happen and to let our chief rival of ESPN beat our face into the mud when First Take was still on air during the NFL offseason. Fox, in a way, hurt themselves by allowing Skip so much control in this case to basically say, no, thank you. Don't want to talk baseball. Don't want to talk basketball. If it's not football, I don't care. That right there is a problem. For the simple fact that this is Fox Sports 1. If you want to talk about the NFL so damn badly, Skip, go to NFL Network and get off of people's TV sets that probably don't care about the NFL every damn day of the year. Because there's other storylines out there in sports that ESPN covered and covers more frequently, it seems like, than FS1 and Skip Bayless's program. And Christy, I think I agree with you that FS1 is a dying network. Christy, I think I said this early on when Press Row first launched here on Coast to Coast. Despite my thoughts about Fox letting Skip get away with this, I absolutely applaud Fox having this ambition to try to compete head-to-head with ESPN with a full-blown network. I would think the only programs I would watch right now on Fox Sports 1 is Colin Cowherd, Speak, and that's probably it because, again, I'm not up at 6 a.m. wanting to watch Skip and those guys talk. But, Christy, it goes back to a point that I said earlier that that FS1 and Fox Sports 1, whatever you want to call it, FS1 had a lot of great, ambitious ideas, but they never got off the ground. Again, I think back to when they tried Fox Sports Live. It was their version of SportsCenter. Again, they literally pried away Jay and Dan, arguably the most well-known SportsCenter staff on TSN in Canada, brought them into LA to do Fox Sports Live. They had their own top 10 plays, but it was called The One, like the one play or the one great play of the night every evening that people could vote on via the Bird platform, Twitter, X, whatever it's called, though. But that they had a lot of great ideas. I love the ideas they had, Christy. But I think, though, that it was just too ambitious even for their own liking, which is why they've been reduced so badly, I think, to only airing college basketball, college football, Major League Baseball, the MLS Cup final last Saturday between Columbus and LAFC. And they've only been relegated to maybe a couple of talk shows. I think they have Chris Broussard and Nick Wright at like 3 o'clock in the morning out here in San Diego. Then, of course, Skip and the Crew at 6 a.m., Colin Cowherd at 9 a.m., Speak with Joy Taylor in them in the afternoon. Then I think they have like a NASCAR talk show. Then after that, they're kind of in a way just showing games. Like they're really not showing any other studio coverage that they had early when they began and launched their network, Christy. And that's, I think, their downfall. You know, the downfall is not all pinned on Skip Bayless being a complete jerk, you know, and basically pulling his program off the air because it didn't fit his set of standards to not talk about the NFL over their offseason. And he didn't want to talk baseball or basketball or any other sports. So, and even as well, that Christy even says that WWE right now has also aired Friday Night SmackDown on FS1 when they have other events on Fox, like the World Series. And I think, Christy, that's a great safety net, though. Having safety nets, though, for Fox like FS1 and FS2 is perfect. Though I also think, though, that I heard rumblings that WWE is up for a new television deal pretty soon, I think, with maybe, I think USA might still keep Monday Night Raw, I want to say, but I think that Fox might be up in the air right now for SmackDown. But that FS1 might be dying, and it might be time for them to just totally, in a way, not shut down. I don't want that to happen and let all those employees lose out on their stuff. But they really have to, I think, sit down and look themselves in the mirror and really, really reconsider their options right now. Because if they are still getting their face beat in and they're getting shoved into the locker by the bully of ESPN every day at school, then they need to do something soon. And I mean pronto, ASAP, right here and right now, where there's like almost in a way, Christy, it feels like that next year might be no margin for error. And again, I don't know if that revolves around what they do with Skip Bayless, if they even choose to shutter the program because they just can't compete with that morning time slot, if they elevate people who are already in, who could be, talent, who could in fact be a part of that program, or they totally restructure the show. There's no easy way right now for FS1 to compete with ESPN when it comes to the morning embrace debate. Sadly, case closed. And also, Christy Wilson has confirmed that SmackDown is going to go to USA. So I believe that would put Monday Night Raw and SmackDown on the same channel. I don't ever recall, Christy, in my time being a WWE fan back in the early 2000s, I don't ever recall a time where the two flagship shows of WWE were ever on the same station. I always remember like SmackDown was on UPN back in the day. Then it moved to it moved to, I think, the CW for a bit, or that was even brought up recently. But I always remember like Raw going from Spike to USA, where it's been for a long time, which I think is also why the network is now on Peacock, with Universal owning Peacock and things of that caliber. And also, okay, so yes, Raw and SmackDown were both back on USA in 2016. Okay, that's good to know. So definitely good moves being made by WWE at this rate, with them looking for new media rights. And again, folks, you can catch Christy and the Between the Ropes crew every Tuesday night here on Coast to Coast. And they had a great show last night, and we actually shared a clip actually from their program last night on our IG account, where they were discussing the Money in the Bank gimmick. As it perhaps ran its course, and what could be done though for Damian Priest with the Money in the Bank briefcase in the future. The NFL is now looking for more global expansion, which includes a trip to Brazil in 2024, but also a fourth television Sunday time slot, with future NFL Sundays could see games airing from morning all the way until midnight, with most international games usually kicking off at 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. This, of course, folks, is in wake of the announcement I think I saw today that the league is currently looking at Brazil for its next overseas game in 2024. But if you're ready for 14 straight hours of NFL football, the league's pending expansion of its international series of games could eventually create a fourth television game window on NFL Sunday. As of Wednesday, the league has voted to boost the inventory of international games from 4 games to a walloping 8 games. And now throw in the annual international Jacksonville Jaguars game, and there could be as many as 9 games played out of the U.S. starting as early as the 2025 NFL season. Most international series games are currently played in England or Germany, with a 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 a.m. Pacific Time kickoff. And down the road, look for games from as far afield as Spain, as well as Canada, Mexico, and Sao Paulo, Brazil next season, which have more U.S.-friendly time slots for U.S. viewers. In the short term, owners also voted to approve a game in Sao Paulo, Brazil in 2024. League Commissioner Roger Goodell wrote via a statement after the vote was done today, saying, quote, end quote, bringing the NFL to new continents, countries, and cities around the world is a critical element of our plan to continue to grow the game globally. Again, I'll read that one more time here. Bringing the NFL to new continents, countries, and cities around the world is a critical element of our plan to continue to grow the game globally, open and close quote. In the future, as many as 8 regular season Sundays could feature 4 straight TV windows for in sustainable NFL viewership. It should also be noted as well at this rate about the potential changes that could be coming here, that just because there is inventory for up to 8 games, not counting the Jaguars, that does not necessarily mean that the NFL will use all of those time slots. Jags owner Shad Khan told FOS on Wednesday, I think it's really great. If you're serious about international growth, you've got to have more games. It is a step in the right direction, and there is a huge amount of demand for them. This goes in a small way towards satisfying some of the demand, open and close quote. When he was asked if the NFL is aiming for a 4th Sunday game window, he said, quote, end quote, could be. The 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time game is a perfect international window. So here now, folks, is what could potentially be a schedule from early morning to the late evening on the East Coast. A 9:30 a.m. international game, 1 p.m. for early afternoon games on both CBS and Fox, the 4:25 late afternoon games on CBS and Fox, and the 8:15 Sunday Night Football window on NBC. The 4-game window format, though, is nothing new. As recently as November, the NFL offered viewers 4 consecutive windows of Sunday football games, all featuring teams that were over 500. Football fans absolutely loved it. The league's own NFL Network will offer 3 consecutive game telecasts starting this Saturday. Former Green Bay Packers executive Andrew Brandt told FOS on Wednesday, I have long predicted an international schedule with 8 games outside our borders, and each team having to play every other year. We will see, open and close quote. The new rule, though, will however impact NFL franchise home game dates. Though teams will now lose at least one home game every 4 years, rather than once every 8 seasons, beginning in 2 years in 2025. The NFL is by far the savviest league, though, when it comes to making money off of the same finite number of games and the expansion of the game across U.S. borders and into overseas markets. Should be noted as well, real quick here, folks. The expansion of the International Series games could also give the league a new TV package for broadcast networks and giant streamers to bid on. Noted Pro Football Talk witnessed the NFL's ability to sell Thursday Night Football, a package that none of the linear networks wanted anymore, to Amazon Prime Video for $1 billion per year. The league's current media right deals with CBS, Fox, NBC, and ESPN, and Amazon will at least generate $110 billion in right fees through the 2033 season. This year's 5 International Series games aired across NFL Network and ESPN Plus and ESPN Plus, and those games were hosted in London and in Frankfurt, Germany, and featured some new innovations. The Walt Disney Company scored a critical success with its Toy Story Fun Day football game as a alt cast of the Jags and Falcons game, which was played in London back in Week 4. That early kickoff allowed Disney and ESPN to reach kids and young parents as well. This might ultimately, folks, be the most ambitious plan I have seen from a league to grow their product beyond U.S. borders. But like I said, though, folks, I do get concerned, though, that when teams are losing home games for overseas, that this also begins to somewhat, in a way, scare me that the league will try to reinvigorate the Europa League again, or the Europe League again, from the early 2000s. And again, I'm not sure that can be done. But I think, though, if you are an NFL football fan, and if you wanted to sit on the couch on a Sunday and watch 14 straight hours of games, beginning at the crack of dawn overseas and then end it with a primetime game somewhere else, I think you are absolutely loving this idea. Now, again, folks, I'm not the biggest NFL fan, though. But definitely, though, I'm actually on board for more viewer-friendly time slots, mainly those of us who live on the West Coast. I would think it's simple as this. Given the nature of the Jaguars and their fanfare in London, I would think that the NFL essentially becomes almost a 3-country league by location. My point is this. Let's take the West Coast, for example, or let's take the AFC West and NFC West. So Chargers, Broncos, Raiders, Chiefs. Cardinals, Niners, Seahawks, and the Rams. I would use those 8 teams to play games in Western Canada and in Western Mexico. Then I would even take some of the Midwest teams and put them in Central Mexico and up in Central Canada. And the same thing when it comes to playing on the East Coast, though. But I would also include East Coast teams going to Germany, Spain, or London, because I look at it from the financial impacts, though. I know that teams can charter planes, though, but the long-haul flight from Los Angeles, Seattle even, to London, Frankfurt, Barcelona, Madrid, that would kind of, in a way, be a bit worrisome. I know it'd be one time every 8 years that you would go play overseas. But I think if you want to do this every year, though, where you play games, in Brazil, Argentina, Mexico City, Jalisco, Toronto even, CFL markets even. I think, honestly, if you want to do this, I think you just basically group the divisions by where they're located and start kind of looking that way at geographical location. Because I think, honestly, if you were to sell a West Coast team in Mexico at Estadio Azteca, for example, in Mexico City, like Chargers Chiefs a few years ago or Chargers Raiders a few years ago, I think you actually have it made. And I'm actually more on board for it because even though I may have been against it early on, like, hey, let's not try to go with a full-blown overseas division and repeat the NFL Europe League from the early 2000s. I think, honestly, you might have something here. And like I said, though, I think in a roundabout way, though, is I am all for sports going beyond our border to grow their product. The NBA's gone to Mexico City numerous times. The NHL, for the first time, went to Australia and played 2 preseason games between the Coyotes and Kings at the Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne. Now the NFL is going to go to Brazil. I absolutely love seeing pro sport. Major League Baseball is going to be going to Seoul, South Korea, when Ohtani and the Dodgers play Ha-Seong Kim and the Padres in the first 2 regular season games ever held in Seoul, South Korea. So I don't want my argument being misconstrued, though, folks. I absolutely love seeing the NFL, the NBA, NHL, Major League Soccer, MLS, even the WNBA. I love seeing teams grow their brand, grow their game overseas. I absolutely think it's a great idea, though. It's a great marketing ploy to get people who maybe watch games. Again, like I said, though, I think on Monday, having seen the Shohei Ohtani Express in a way, when I had my Major League debut as the PA announcer for the Angels in 2022, it was a Shohei Ohtani start on the mound and him leading off. The influx of Japanese media who are here in the States covering Shohei Ohtani, how we have seen news outlets now employing Beyonce reporters and Taylor Swift reporters to cover their every move, really, I think, helped with the game of baseball by having people who were here to solely cover Shohei Ohtani for Japanese media and TV stations and newspapers back in Japan. So, again, though I'm not really I'm not on the NFL bandwagon. I've not really been that way, and it's been that way really more because of the Chargers leaving for LA. But maybe in a way the Jaguars have begun a trend, though, that I absolutely think is a slam dunk victory for the NFL, for television, and for viewers. Yeah, 14 hours of football is a lot, to watch on a given Sunday, Monday, Thursday. But now, though, when you talk about adding in Canada, Mexico, Brazil, maybe even Argentina, maybe, what I would love to see, though, let's go back to Japan. Let's go to South Korea. Let's try to, infuse other countries other than just Mexico and Canada and, and Europe. Let's try and go back to Japan again. But honestly, though, this would be high heaven for the NFL as a league to cash in on viewership and cash in on media rights, though. And this is a win for football. But also, this is a win, though, for fans who maybe are NFL fans who live overseas, like Tim Hendricks, for example, who lives over in, I'd love to see a game over in Italy. Now, once again, don't misconstrue my argument from an earlier episode where I said, don't go the route of a division. Use your resources. Now this opens up, I think, a great storyboard where you can take a map of the world now, like when I'm looking at here with this bulletin board I have of all my press credentials from my 15 years in announcing and writing. Now, though, you start throwing darts, and now you start picking markets that you think you want to go to. A game in Italy would be amazing. A game in Dublin, Ireland. Just for example, Notre Dame playing this past year in Dublin. Absolutely incredible. Again, I'm not a big football fan, but I woke up to watch that game. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish playing in the capital city of Dublin, Ireland, among the Irish, the Irish football fan base back there. Win-win for college football. So now, though, this opens up Pandora's box in a great way for the NFL. Again, please don't misconstrue my earlier arguments made that I'm don't grow the game overseas, though. I just didn't want there to be a full-blown division made for the NFL. But use your resources. Use your 32 teams that you have right now. And again, maybe go my route, maybe, of geographical locations. West Coast teams go to Vancouver, for example, or go down to Mexico. Mexico City, Guadalajara, the World Cup teams that are going to be used, though, in 2026. Again, the Midwest, go again, like Winnipeg, go to Mexico City, go to, again, just look at the maps and go that route, though, because I would absolutely love to see the NFL, like other leagues have, though, keep growing your game overseas. Keep doing it. Again, the NHL going down to Australia really got that fan base hyped in Melbourne when they went to Rod Laver Arena and the Kings played the Coyotes in 2 preseason games. Phenomenal. And now the NFL, I think, here can somewhat, again, NFL game played in Sydney, Australia, or in Melbourne, or in Perth. I as much as I'm not a big NFL fan, sign me up, because it proves to me that you really want to grow your game and also grow the American version of football in non-American football markets. So I think that this opens up an endless world of possibilities for the NFL, and I absolutely love it, seeing a league going this route now. And I think it also, again, kind of hinges on, like, NBA is going to Mexico City. The WNBA is going to go to Toronto next season, I believe, for a preseason game. MLB is going to South Korea. They're going to London again, I think, next season. Like, all these leagues, folks, have endless possibilities to grow their brand and the Americanized version of certain sports in foreign markets. That is an absolute slam dunk, case closed victory for every league out there to grow their brand overseas. And I absolutely love seeing this, though. And again, if in the NFL's case, going to use your resources, you have so much at your disposal. Give it a shot. Let's see what we can do. Finally, today in college football, but SEC network talk show host Paul Feinbaum says he has been bothered by what he called unadulterated fake outrage around the selection process of the college football playoff. Sean Kelly, who writes for awfulnutting.com, wrote that since the moment that the 4 teams in this year's CFP were announced, it is fair to say that the reaction has been outsized and also very impassionate. No surprise, though, but Florida State fans in particular were understandably furious about seeing their team get left out despite going unbeaten and winning the ACC, especially when one loss Alabama and one loss Texas both made it in over the Seminoles. The reactions, folks, from the sports media world were almost equally intense, pitting ESPN analysts against one another and launching that network into the crosshairs of critics who assumed that they had meddled in the process to ensure that certain teams were selected or even favored. SEC network talk show host Paul Feinbaum, who has been plenty outspoken and some would say over the top about CFP participant Michigan, says that he thinks that reactions from FSU fans in the sports media are both unprecedented and also even astonishing. Feinbaum said of FSU fans during an appearance on McElroy and Kolblick in the morning on JOX 94.5 on Monday, really unprecedented. I understand all the things that have been said. I understand the frustration, but the complete and total reinterpretation of what college football and the CFP is about to me has been truly astonishing. I never get too upset or maybe upset at all about what I read on Twitter because I realize those are people who can't get into your show or any other show just expressing themselves, but more from just people in the industry, people who do understand how the CFP is developed and designed. And to me, it is just complete and unadulterated fake outrage. It's part of where we are in society, where people without any facts, without any information, just gravitate to an issue, embrace it, squeeze it, and just then regurgitate it, whatever the talking points are, open and close quote. I'm also very glad that we're not 8 days past it, but it's still out there. And I think it's one of those narratives that just simply gets created and never leaves. It doesn't matter whether or not it's true, open and close quote from Paul Feinbaum, talking on Monday to local radio on JOX 94.5 about the, again, perhaps scripted outrage among FSU fans. And furthermore, Feinbaum, a longtime member of the SEC on the media side, wondered if the reaction would have been as intense if Bama have been left out. And he says, at no point have I ever heard anyone say, well, what if we reversed it? What would you have said about Bama, as if they didn't do anything to get in? To me, they did. They just did not have the Jordan Travis situation, and we're going to hold them hostage for playing a very difficult schedule and then dealing with the biggest and baddest team in the country and beating them in Georgia. I just think that's a complete travesty. Even though the outrage would not be as loud had Bama been left out, it's a bit of an absurd argument given the differences in the situations between both the Tide and even the Florida State Seminoles, given the nature of circumstances that both teams had faced coming down the pipeline and down to the end of the finish line for the regular season. Yeesh. There's no winners and there's no losers. There might be actually more losers than winners when it comes down to the CFP selection. I, though, want to first and foremost absolutely decry and call foul. And I want to put down anybody out there who believes that ESPN and the Disney company had something to do with the process is absolutely wrong. I can see the argument being made for the fact of the ongoing sidebar circus crap show involving the governor's office in Florida and the Disney company. But I don't believe in any way, shape, form, or size that the Walt Disney Company and ESPN had anything to do with the selection committee's process whatsoever. I really don't think so. Furthermore, real quick, that while Paul Feinbaum is obviously giving the McElroy and Koblik audience some red meat, there has been a noticeable push amongst ESPN talent to justify why FSU was left out of the CFP. Even if the network had nothing to do with the outcome, it does make you wonder if the worldwide leader, Doth, protests too much, open and close quote. Again, folks, I don't think that at any point in time is there ever any winners or losers. Honestly, there might be more losers than there are winners when it boils down to the selection process with the CFP. And I hate to say that, but I think that's really the case. I do get, and I absolutely want to squash this real quick. Don't sit here and tell me that the reaction that we saw from those Florida State players, given the circumstances that they were in, don't tell me that those kids were acting with their raw emotion, that them going unbeaten, them winning the ACC title over Louisville, winning with their third-string quarterback. Don't try to sit here and justify the fact that those kids were pretending to be upset. That is pure stupidity. Absolute pure stupidity. To even consider the fact that maybe that those kids were faking, bawling their eyes out when they did not make the CFP. I also want to applaud the Georgia Bulldogs, who I know they were outraged and upset, though, but I give them a hell of a lot of credit, though, and a lot of respect for how they've handled themselves during this whole entire ordeal. That they really did not necessarily bark up the tree of lawsuits and putting aside state money to file lawsuits like Florida State has, and that Georgia, in a way, took the high road. Florida State, though I agree should have gotten in, the entire sidebar circus that is right now with, the Attorney General's office coming out today with some story about wanting to sue, Governor DeSantis putting aside the money to sue the CFP, and then the whole thing, though, with the Disney company and ESPN perhaps, interfering with the process. This is, in a way, standing FSU's reputation. That outside influences, mainly the governor's office and the Attorney General's office, they're now, in a way, like making this worse than what it should be. If there is any issue I have with the CFP, it's not about FSU not getting in, and it's not about Georgia not getting in. My main concern now is what I said on here a couple times already on C2C. Now we have a tainted Michigan program as the number 1 overall seed playing Alabama in the Rose Bowl. Like I said on Sports Minute a few weeks ago, If I'm the NCAA now, I am absolutely terrified for the fact that we have let this program in Michigan kind of get off with a slap on the wrist, not once, but twice in the same football season because of head coach Jim Harbaugh, the cheeseburger issue over the offseason, and this whole Astros-style sign-stealing scandal that came up in the last 3 weeks of the season. So my gripe is not about Florida State and Georgia. They both deserve to get in. Let me just put that right now. The Seminoles and Bulldogs should be in, and I would question why in the world is a right now tainted program in the Wolverines of the University of Michigan, why are they even sniffing the CFP? Because they're in the same exact spot here as Florida State. Unbeaten conference champion, I get that. But come on now. There's 2 strikes on that head coach already in one single season. So how does that not play a role where we have the lame-ass excuse of, well, we didn't want to put Florida State in there because they didn't have their starting quarterback. So because teams can't prep for injuries to happen, they're left out of the CFP. Yet, though, a program whose head coach has been caught in hot water on 2 separate occasions in the same damn season, they're allowed in. Yet there's the same exact circumstance, though. Michigan, conference champion, unbeaten ball club. Florida State, conference champion, unbeaten ball club. Yet, though, because they're playing with their third-string quarterback, that's more of an issue than the fact that there is potential violations of NCAA rules, not once but twice by the same program and the same head coach. It's not ESPN interfering with the selection committee. It's not that. Florida State, I think, though, in a way, is making this more of a problem than it is because of one argument. Wait till next year, because 12 teams will get in, and there won't be any more of this ludicrous BS, hopefully, where unbeaten programs like the Seminoles, like Michigan, like James Madison University, they will get in if they're in the top 12. Even better, if you're 1 through 5, you host a game on campus in the new quarterfinals next season. I'm more deceived, though, at the fact that the Wolverines are even in this damn CFP. Because dangling injuries over a team to not get in when they had the same damn record and won the same exact championship at the end of the road as Michigan did. Yet for the fact, though, that the head coach of this program has been entrenched in 2 separate scandals in the same freaking season, that to me scares me. That to me scares me more than the fact that Florida State didn't get in by playing with their third-string QB. Because do you really want a repeat of the 2017 MLB season when it came out that the Astros cheated? Because I think that there's been lawsuits filed here and stuff like that. So again, the Seminoles and Bulldogs should be in. And in my honest opinion, though you may hate it and disagree with it, Michigan should be out. For the simple fact that Georgia won 29 straight games and their only loss comes by 3 points in the SEC title game, and the fact that Florida State had to go through more adversity to win their conference championship while they were unbeaten, those 2 teams deserve to get in over a crooked, fraudulent program right now in Michigan, whose head coach got popped twice in the same season for violations of the NCAA rulebook. Whether anything comes out of it or not, though, Michigan, in my opinion, does not deserve to be in the CFP. That might be a very far-fetched idea, folks. But I think, though, if you were to ask Lady Justice to hold out the scales of which one tips which way or another, honestly, Seminoles and Bulldogs get in, Michigan out. because of the reasons I listed. And honestly, you might agree with me. I think that especially with where we're at right now, does the CFP committee want the lasting legacy of the first 4-team bracket boiled down potentially to a Michigan program stuck right now in hot water with Jim Harbaugh, recruiting issues with him buying lunch for the kids over the offseason, and then the sign stealing issue that came about with about 3 to 4 games to go in the regular season? Do you really want a program who has been, in some roundabout way, caught red-handed to hoist up the college football playoff championship trophy as your national champion, knowing damn well that they have skeletons in their closet? And again, folks, it goes back to my long-tired argument. There will never be a perfect college football playoff system. I know Brandon and Tim talked on Rankem earlier, I believe on Tuesday morning or today, that if they were in charge, they would have a similar system like the NFL to have a playoff format. Again, guys, I just don't think, even with 12 teams, you may have to go to a 16-team tournament to make this actually work out the right way. Because there's just so many avenues we can go. But first and foremost, let's cut the malarkey about ESPN and Disney interfering with the selection process. I know that might be the big conspiracy theory of like, well, Disney and DeSantis don't like each other. I get that. But again, that's not a factor to be considered. All ESPN does is they show the games on TV. And Christy Wilson and I agree that Michigan needs to be punished. Honestly, okay, simple as this, Christy. If Michigan loses in round 1 against Bama, then all's forgiven, honestly, at least in my book. Because I judge this more from the student-athlete perspective of me being there at one point playing sports in high school and stuff like that. Like, I have more sympathy towards the student-athlete because I was once one 11 years ago, going on 12 years ago. Again, it goes back to an argument I brought up about JMU being perhaps ineligible for a New Year's Day 6 game. Factors out of my control as a student-athlete are going to ruin my team's chances. Like me breaking my leg cost my team a chance to play for the national championship because people judging us from the outside, again, outside looking in like those puppies in the window at the pet store who scratch at the mirror and want your attention to, hey, please adopt me, please adopt me. They get viewed differently based on they didn't think that a team on their third-string quarterback could sell the product to the nation. Yet, though, we want the villain storyline, though, of Michigan, who, again, has violated NCAA rules. Guilty and, innocent until proven guilty. It happened regardless, twice in a row in the same flipping season. They want to put the villain out there. They want Thanos playing, facing the Avengers in round 1 of the CFP in their mind. So I think until there's more radical change with the committee, things aren't going to change. Because I would think, though, that this could be a major stain on college football's reputation. Because you think back to SMU back in the day, when they were like the first team to be sanctioned for recruiting or payment to players back in the day. All the other stuff we've heard of, like USC having to vacate Reggie Bush's Heisman Trophy. Thinking of all those storylines that other schools have been punished, SMU, USC, for example. Yet, though, all of it's fine now all of a sudden when Michigan and their head coach clearly violate rules written in the bylaws of NCAA college football, not once, but twice in the same season. Not over the course of 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or a 5-year stretch, twice in the same damn year. So I think that priorities are out of whack right now. That because the committee views a third-string quarterback not being able to sell a college game, forget selling an NFL game or an NBA primetime game, we're going to criticize, we're going to punish a third-string quarterback at Florida State University who, in the committee's mind, can't sell the product against UW, Texas, Michigan, or Alabama. We're viewing factors out of the team's control because we can't control when guys get hurt or when guys get sick. Yet apparently we're supposed to be able to control that somehow. And we, in this case FSU, we get left out despite being just like Michigan, conference champion and unbeaten. Yet, though, we're going to let the villains, we're going to let the bad guys, we're going to let people who break the rules into the Final Four for the CFP. It's not Disney influencing who gets in. It's none of that. And also, don't sit here and criticize college kids for what you believe was fake outrage. I mean, when I saw that video, like, my heart broke for those kids at Florida State. Because, again, I can sympathize with student athletes who have worked so hard to get there. And, again, like those people viewing from 100 yards downfield, or those people, again, viewing you like you're a pet at the pet store, again, scratching your claws to be adopted. Because factors out of your control, like your quarterback getting injured, are out of your control, yet you get punished for it despite winning your conference championship, overcoming adversity. That is not good enough to make the Final Four for the college football playoff. But yeah, we'll let Michigan in, despite their head coach breaking the rules. Not once, but twice in the same season. That's fine with us. Like, hey, nothing happened here. Michigan's allowed to get in. I don't care that Florida State, yeah, they won the conference championship, but hey, I don't see anything. Everything's fine. How are you? Absolute BS. Absolute BS. Again, I don't want to hear about ESPN and Disney influencing who got in. Because I think that Disney said it right, though. We're not we're trying to get away from this whole malarkey with the governor's office right now. We had nothing to do with this. So I blame I blame a lot of this on the committee. And again, it goes back to Callan's old, outdated, tiresome argument. Despite next year happening, there's never going to be a squeaky clean or perfect college football playoff system. Now, I will see, and I think I will also refute the reports, by the way, that both the Bulldogs and Seminoles won't play in the Orange Bowl. There's absolutely no way that these two schools are going to do that. I know they heard about maybe boycotting the game because of the committee not selecting them. Don't go that route, whatever you do, if you're Florida State or Georgia. Please don't do that. Because now it's going to make you look like sore losers if this happens. And I don't want that to happen. Let these kids play one more game. New Year's Day, New Year's Day 6 game that you're going to be playing. Don't even consider doing that, please. And again, I think I give a lot of credit though to the Georgia Bulldogs for how they, in a way, they handle this a hell of a lot better than Florida State has, sadly. Now, it's not my frustration is not with the Florida State team. It's more the frustration of like the governor putting aside money to sue. It's the former governor writing that long letter to the CFP committee. And now, per reports today, gather that the attorney general is now getting involved to sue the CFP committee. Sadly, guys, pick your battles. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Because, again, you cross that gray area now of the government of the state getting involved now with sports. Gray areas being entered here. And I don't think that there's any longevity that you can have here by doing this, sadly. But, again, my heart breaks, though, for those Florida State players, though. Because now all of a sudden, they've been crucified by Paul Feinbaum, who calls the outrage fake. Yeah, bring one of those kids onto your talk show there, Skippy. Look them in the eyes and tell them you faked your outrage. You weren't really upset. You weren't really crying. Tell that to him, to those kids to their face. That is absolutely pathetic. That we can actually sit here and actually believe that they were acting, that they did not get into the CFP. That was raw emotion that those kids were showing. So, again, folks, very interesting situation. And I know, folks, we can go a lot of different ways with this whole CFP debate right now and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, though, folks, Georgia and Florida State deserved better. And in my mind, Michigan should be out because there are more skeletons in the closet of the Wolverines right now that deserve to be looked at and considered. Not the fact that Florida State was on their third-string quarterback when they won the ACC title, nor the fact that Georgia's only loss in nearly 30 games came at the expense of their big bad rivals in Alabama, and it came in the conference championship game. If anything, I would have removed Michigan out of the equation and put in Florida State and put in Georgia. I think I would have left UW and left Texas in there. I may or may not have I may have actually left Texas out though, despite that they won though. But again, that goes back to my argument though, that the 4-team playoff never really worked to its full potential. And I think this year, in a way, this season, in my opinion, in general, I think, sort of in a way puts in a time, encapsulates that the 4-team tournament did not work to its full potential because we left out 2 schools who should be in there and maybe 1 school who should not be in there because, again, violating NCAA rules and bylaws. So hopefully that the 12-team format will work out next season. But again, I still am very skeptical about the new format. And Christy, I think we all agree, but hey, Florida State, you deserved better. You really did. Georgia and Florida State both deserve better. And the fact that the Wolverines are even in this CFP is an utter disgrace. It is an utter disgrace. From a simple fact that 2 schools can go play well, fight through adversity, yet a school who has broken the rules. This is the 2017 Astros all over again. When it boils down to sign stealing, when it boils down to Jim Harbaugh over the offseason, yet the blinders are on. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. It's an utter disgrace. And I sympathize so much with those kids at Florida State, Coach Norvell, Georgia even, Coach Smart, and Brock Bowers. I sympathize a lot with those kids at FSU and at Georgia. Because I think it's like Jordan Travis said, like Coach Norvell said, the committee doesn't view adversity. They only look at the numbers and all the ludicrous malarkey that is some of these stat categories about like RPI and the old streak, the schedule and net ratings and bull crap like that when it boils down to how they pick the teams. They get judged off the numbers. They don't get judged about bouncing back after losing a game or losing their 2 quarterbacks to injury with a broken leg and a concussion. But yet, we'll bat an eye, though, when a team breaks recruiting rules or is caught with a Astros sign stealing scandal like Michigan was with the last 4 games to play. And I know I have friends who are Michigan fans, but I'm sorry. It is a utter disgrace that Michigan is number 1. Florida State, same exact boat as the Wolverines. They won their conference title. They went unbeaten. But because a third-string quarterback wouldn't sell on ESPN, again, maybe that could be the gripe about why the committee gets sued or why people think that ESPN had some sort of interference in the selection committee's picks for the tournament. Michigan is an utter disgrace. The committee is as well. And again, I just don't think there's going to be a right way or a proper way for there to be a college football playoff, even with it going to 12 teams next season. This could have been done so differently. You know, maybe you could have done like maybe for like a consolation prize, like a 6-team tournament, maybe. But regardless, folks, again, Paul Feinbaum with some very interesting remarks about perhaps faked outrage by members of Florida State University in regards to the selection committee for the CFP electing not to select the Seminoles in the Final Four for the college football playoff rankings. With that, folks, another great show. Big thanks to Christy Wilson for joining us here today in our chat box. Again, folks, we'll come back and see you later on the night on Sports Minute with Adam Barber and the entire cast and crew coming away here at around 9 o'clock local time, Pacific time here. Back here on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network back here around 9 p.m. So we'll see you folks in about 5 hours. Till then, folks, have a great rest of your day. This has been Press Row. We're back with you again tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time back here on C2C for our next pod. Till then, folks, good night and good day. Bye-bye.